Got it. Let's try that again. I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Historic Preservation Commission for January 27th, 2021. Could we please have a roll call?
Yes. Chair White,
Here.
Commissioner Stodahl,
Here.
Commissioner Levine,
Here.
Commissioner Beck, she's excused, Commissioner Hotchkiss, Commissioner Serfas, Commissioner Cosgrove, here. Commissioner Laramie, Commissioner Palancar,
Here.
Commissioner Palacios, Commissioner Long,
Here.
Commissioner Seabrandt,
Here.
Commissioner Mary Beth Tim.
Present.
Thank you.
Are we in compliance with the open meeting law?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Public comment. Comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. If you wish to be heard, come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed may be limited. Seeing no one, I'd like to have action, please, on the minutes from the last meeting, December 9th. Could someone?
So this is Commissioner Cosgrove. I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
Thank you. The minutes have, it's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor of accepting the minutes as they are?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, is that unanimous?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. It's unanimous that we accept the minutes as written. I'd like to move on to item 200385, HPC 1, report by Emily Feller, corrections specialist at the Neon Museum. This item, because of illness, is going to be obeyed.
So, Madam Chair, if you could get a motion to obey that to the,
Okay.
I assume you want it at the next meeting, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We'd like to obey this to the next meeting. May I have action, please, so that we can obey?
And Madam Chair, I'm sorry, let me just make sure, what's the date?
24th,
The
February 24th.
February 24th, thank you.
All right, I'll move to obey it to the 24th of February.
Thank you. A second, please.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second that we obey this item of the Neon Museum till the 24th of February. All in favor? Aye. It's unanimous.
Commissioners Stodahl and Long? Is that a yay?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, just for record keeping, anyone who's here in the chambers, please make sure that you're turning your mic on when you're doing your vote so that it's recorded. The system has a very hard time picking up voices, particularly with masks on, if you're not speaking into the active microphone. So I just ask if everyone could please remember to do that. I know it's a pain to do that every time, but
No, thank
it's
you
helpful.
so much, because I wasn't even looking at my screen, so thank you so much. Everybody find seats.
Commissioner Surface, you're actually right here, sir. Oh, thanks, I appreciate it. No problem.
Just wanted to say that Commissioner Serfas and Laramie arrived at 12:06.
Thank you. Item 200386, HPC 1, discussion for possible action regarding approval of a certificate of appropriateness for a sewer line replacement at Floyd Lamb Park at Tule Springs, located at 9200 Tule Springs Road, Ward 6. I think I referred, is Diane going to do this, or?
So the connection seems to be really good, so Diane will lead off, and we do have members of our Department of Public Works here as well to discuss the project. So Diane?
Thank you very much. Just let me know if you can't hear me. So this certificate of appropriateness, this is a necessary maintenance request that must be done in order to save time because of the need to have it done as quickly as possible. I submitted this certificate of appropriateness to the HPC. At the same time, I submitted the proper paperwork to SHPO. SHPO was really quick on this one, and they have already approved it with the caveat that, as I've also put into this document, that I will document the process from start to finish. The line does need to go through the historic core of the park. However, it does not disrupt or impact the structures in any way, shape, or form. They just need to connect the line to the buildings. There will just be disturbance on the ground and the grass and the dirt areas. So it's not going to alter the park in any way, and it is necessary maintenance. And I'm watching on the video, I think, is that Jeremy there from Public Works?
Yes, he's here.
Okay, so Jeremy, if you want to go ahead and then explain further, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Jeremy Levitt, Department of Public Works.
One second, please. Did I understand that there's a video feed of this available?
Bob, you can look, if you go on the, if you go onto the city website and you go to meetings and agendas, and if you click on the interactive, if you go to Historic Preservation Commission, if you click on the interactive icon, you can see the chambers.
Really?
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, if we could just hold a second while those of us online can connect. Thank you.
We will. I had no idea you could do this.
Yes, Madam Chair, that's one of the benefits of the council chambers and the city's new agenda software, is it does sync up video from the chambers to the agenda software. It's not published live anywhere else, but it is available through the actual agenda software. There is a delay, and it's not 100% perfect, but it at least gives the ability to see the items. But there is a delay in the broadcast, so don't be surprised if any of the members watching online have a moment pause between something that may happen in chambers and what they'll be able to see.
Okay, we'll be patient.
Can we maybe zoom in on this a little more, possibly? That's good, right there.
So who's doing the magic?
That would be our wonderful technicians working in the back room, back behind the glass back there.
Oh, okay.
Commissioner Stovall, were you able to get that up at this point?
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm just listening to the delay, but I appreciate the help. Thank you so much.
So,
Okay, so basically there's a number of facilities out at the park, Floydland Park at Tule Springs, that were on septic tanks or we're not hooked up to regular sewer. So we have sewer lines that go out to the park, existing sewer lines that go out into the park. They connect a couple of places here in the southern end of the park and in the northern end, but we need to extend those to connect facilities that were on septic still. One is so extended one line, it's all 8-inch sewer lines that were extended down, one down to the guard shack to get rid of one septic there, one to Comfort Station number 1, and one at and another extension here at the foreman's house. So the only place in there that will go through any even all this is in dirt and gravel and pavement, and this line that extends to the foreman's house will go into the grass, but we've made sure we're not going over any facilities or structures, just disrupting as little as possible. And then the other line, existing line that goes up to the north between Converse Station 4 and 5 will be extended along the road and connect into these comfort stations and to the fourplex, which is where the gun club was. Getting rid of a couple of other septic tanks that were out there. And that's an ongoing maintenance issue that we have this will really clear up a lot of the maintenance issues and is much needed. Any questions?
Any questions?
Question, Chair.
Did Bob have a question?
Yeah. The question is it looks like there's going to be significant digging through the entire facility to do the maintenance. I was wondering, is there any instructions if they find any artifacts or anything along that line to alert the HPC officer?
Yes, absolutely. We will be, the contractor is, that contract is being awarded in February, the next meeting in City Council in February, and we have pre-construction meeting will be scheduled after that. We'll have a protocol is in the specifications and have a protocol to notify us and to let us know of anything of historic nature that they see or in excavation. We have construction management personnel that will be there the entire time during excavation and taking numerous photos, and I know Diane is planning to come and document weekly also. So we'll be on top of making sure that they don't just dig through anything important.
Thank you, Chair. Then I'd like to make a motion to approve.
We have a motion on the floor to approve. Can I have a second? Okay. It has been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Please vote into your microphones.
Aye.
So is it I can't see the vote yet, but any opposed? So it's unanimous. Okay, thank you. Item number 200387, HPC 1, discussion for possible action regarding approval of a certificate of appropriateness for a carport re-roofing on project located at 555 Ellen Way in the Beverly Green Historic District neighborhood, which is on the City of Las Vegas Register of Historic Places, Ward 3. Diane?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So certificate of appropriateness, the applicant and homeowner is there to present, but I'll just introduce this real quick. So he is in the Beverly Green neighborhood, which does not have specific neighborhood design guidelines. Because it is on our register, it does need to conform to Title 19. So the owner was not aware that he needed to seek permission from the HPC, so the structure is partially built already. He was made aware of needing to do the certificate of appropriateness, which he has done. And I just want to remind the commission that it's not this commission's purview to talk about whether the structure was permitted or not. Our goal is to look at if the structure is going to be conforming to the Title 19 guidelines for the historic character of that neighborhood. Staff is recommending that we approve this one because he has matched it to the original historic character of the house and also of the other carports that are in the neighborhood, and it does conform to the Title 19 guidelines of which we need to look at. And Mr. Evans, or Frank, are you there?
Yes, he's coming toward the mic now.
Okay, so I'll let him go ahead and explain to the commission. And he has a couple slides that, Jeff, I hope you have, that he can show on the monitor. There is a bit of an updated rendering that was submitted this morning, that's updated from the packet that was in your backup material that he'll show you on the overhead.
Okay. Welcome. How are you today?
Great, thank you, Madam Chair,
what-
members, commissioners of the Historic Preservation Committee, or Commission and staff. My name is Evan Frank. I am the homeowner and resident of 555 Ellen Way. First of all, can everybody hear me? I'm going to keep my mask on if that's all right with everybody.
Yes.
Great, I'll try to speak slowly and enunciate. I have a tendency to speak quickly. I'm from New York originally. So thank you all for allowing me to appear today. First of all, what a beautiful city hall. This is my first visit here. It's really just a beautiful place, and really it seems to encompass the spirit of openness and everything. So really nice to be here today. I'm coming here today to respectfully ask for the HPC's support in completing the framing and the re-roofing of an existing carport. I'm going to show you this is slide 5 here. This is an update that we literally just did overnight. So we have two different renderings. This particular one, I've tried to really engage the neighborhood and the community. So this is as a result of some feedback that I got from a close neighbor who asked us to take a reworking. So this slide 5 is this is our most recent thinking. The slides that we presented in the original application, that was sort of an earlier idea. So we're trying to work to one or both of those. Let me see if I can advance this. So these are some renderings. This is the most recent rendering. Just to give some background, in 1959, first of all, the house was built in 1955. In 1959, there was a permitted conversion of the original carport into a family room. So for over 60 years, the driveway where the structure is right now has served as a two-vehicle car park. In 2007, there was a planning. There were renderings that were given to the planning department to construct what's currently the existing structure. So you can see in sort of a bluish green there, that is the original structure, the existing structure that appears to have been there since at least 2009. And that was the scheme, the schematic that was presented to planning in 2007. Here's another look at it. Again, the blue is the existing structure, and what we're asking the HPC to approve would be to use the existing structure and then update it with a pitched roof that will be congruent with the rest of the house and with the neighborhood. The reason I started doing, I think it's important to just, off the bat, just tell everybody, I'm ultimately responsible for making sure that I came before the board and before planning and building and safety. So I apologize. It was not my intent to try to do anything, that wasn't approved. What I was trying to do was there was a flat canvas roof that was on the top of that structure. Over the years, it had really deteriorated due to sun, wind, and rain. So it was really very impractical for the desert climate that we have here. So the goal was, because it was raining and making a mess of my car, we took it off, and the goal was just to do a repair. Ultimately, there was some sort of scope creep. I'm responsible for that. In retrospect, I realize now that I should have come to the commission and to planning and to building and safety. I actually stopped the project before completion on my own when I sort of looked at it and said, I need to probably get a structural engineer involved just to make sure it's all safe. So code enforcement did come visit me, but this was weeks after I had already stopped the project. So I just want to make that clear. I'm ultimately responsible. I don't want to make it sound like it's anyone else's responsibility, but I think that is important to understand. I'm going to just cycle through some of these slides quickly. You can see the rendering here of the carport. I made really a lot of importance on making it conform to the details, the architectural details of the original home. We put in there some wood rafters that had the same angular cuts. We actually measured the degree of the rafters that were on the front of the house to match the carport, and it was partially built to very, strict measurements so that it really looks and feels like the original and similar to other carports on that same block. And you can see in this rendering here, the front of the carport structure, the gables are done to match the gables on the front of the house on the left of that slide. What else can I tell you? This I think is a good slide. This is actually seeing, if you look, this is from the inside of the frame carport. Again, you can see the dark brown is what the existing structure was that was there from at least 2009. There was actually, through public domain, we've actually found that there appears to be a predecessor structure that was that had that same footprint from at least 2003, if not earlier, and I'll show you that. So the reason I'm going into all that detail is I think it's very relevant. There's been an overhead structure carport in some form or fashion for at least 20 years that I've been able to ascertain. I'm going to go through these materials real fast. I can come back to those if anybody has any questions. So again, this is just kind of a visual. Home was built in '55. The original carport was legally, and it was converted with building permits in 1959. So for like about 60 years, that same area that's being used right now to park two vehicles has been where they've been. Again, 2003, if not earlier, there was what looks like possibly a predecessor overhead shade structure on the property. 2007, I mentioned there was a drawing that was approved by the City of Las Vegas. And then in 2009, it looks like the existing steel structure was built.
When did you purchase the property?
I bought it in 2013, but I just made it my home about a year ago.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Are there any questions, comments? We'll wait for those on the phone. Questions or comments? Okay, so let's...
I'd like to comment, and Michelle does too, I think. Michelle, you want to go ahead?
Sure. This is Commissioner Laramie. I just wanted to say that as a resident of Beverly Green, and actually Evan is my neighbor on my street, I think a lot of some of the observations that he pointed out are good to take into account. There have been many houses in Beverly Green that have had either carports converted into garages or original carports enclosed, and then some freestanding structures placed in front of that. So I do think what he is proposing fits into the existing character of the neighborhood. And he has taken committed to a lot of attention to detail to kind of look at the existing characteristics of his house and bring that into the carport. So I would recommend approval.
Thank you.
Well, that's kind of what I was going to say, and all right. The plans and the drawings that I will disclose, the plans and the drawings that you're looking at were actually created in my house by my partner, Mark, as a contract designer for Evan, brought in after the fact, after the project was started. I've been excited about the new roof line and the additions and the materials and the overall looking of the ever since we found out that it was being built, and then the work had stopped, and then city code gotten involved. And I do want to say that Evan has actually done a really great job of looking at the details of his house. I wish everybody would do that, all the other neighbors, all right, and try to match to those. Another important element is that we really don't have design standards for the neighborhood, and I think it reiterates the fact that we really need those, and we really need to get them published. And I think as we go forward with any other neighborhoods getting historic neighborhood designation, I think we need to have the design guidelines included as part of that. Evan was a supporter and a signer of the petitions that were made to get the neighborhood done. But it really does reiterate the need for us to finish that project. It's been on our agenda for a long time, that the neighbors know about it. And I hope everybody will put as much attention to proposed changes to their homes as Evan has done. So I'd second the motion to approve the, I would actually, let me ask the question then, is the drawing that we're looking at, the new one from this morning, is that the finished project, or there was one with the skirting around it as well?
Yeah, I had submitted one about a month ago that has a skirting around it. Those are our two best ideas of what we can build and that will hold the structure on it. Obviously, both are subject to a structural engineer doing all the calculations and stamping it. So that would be something that we'll be working on next if I have the board or the commission approve what I'm asking for.
So it's really a matter of it being appropriate for the neighborhood and that we're okay with that, and whether it's one design or the other, with the skirt or without the skirt. All right, the overall effect isn't really changed.
So I'm ready for a motion if we don't have any more comments or questions.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that you mentioned you're from out of state, and I believe there's a lot of out-of-state people purchasing homes within the community, and I don't believe any of them are aware that, and I think that's a shame, that they're not told when they move in, or have some type of papers written up. And the real estate people should get into getting paperwork out to everyone in the community that they're in a historic district and there's specific requirements.
So
I think that's important, and then he wouldn't have had such a...
That's correct, and I think that we have an item coming up on the agenda that speaks to that.
It does.
So,
I would have moved to approve the appropriateness for the neighborhood.
may I have a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve this item number 7, 8. All in favor?
Madam Chair, if I might, before you actually do the vote, if I could have the motion maker just clarify that the motion would be issue the certificate of appropriateness, whether there's the slight skirting on the roof or not, so that there's no question when we get to the final building permit of whether or not that has met your intent. So if we could just have that
Yes, I would move to
clarified.
approve it either way, with the skirt or without.
Thank you.
And Chair, that's for item 7. We're on item 7.
Are we ready for a second now?
Commissioner Laramie, can I make one small comment?
Yes.
I am in favor of approving it for either design, but I would like to just put forward that I think the preference would be without the skirting, if possible, and if there's structural stability to do so. I do think the skirting does interrupt some of the historic features, specifically the picture window of the enclosed living area. So my preference again would be without the skirting, but I wouldn't hold up the approval if it needs to be the other way for structural reasons.
So are you willing to change your motion?
No, my motion stays the same then, that we do it either way. Okay. And I would have a preference without the skirting as well, okay? So, but if that's what needs to be to give it the structural integrity, then so be it.
Okay. Could I have that second again?
I'll second it again.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? So the ayes have it. It carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for being so open about everything that has transpired, and thank you.
Thanks.
And I'm glad that you love your city hall.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye. Item number 8, 200388, HPC1. Discussion for possible action regarding approval of allocating up to $50,000 of Historic Preservation Commission funding for a strategic neighborhood outreach program that will spread awareness to residents and business owners within the city limits of Las Vegas about historic preservation initiatives and opportunities for the Historic Preservation Commission, all wards. Diane, please.
Okay, so thank you, Chair. And because there's a slight delay on looking at the video, hopefully it will work. So I'm just going to ask Jeff to advance the slide as I talk about each one. So this is going to address Commissioner Lee's concerns, as well as many others. This is something that we have been talking about since I have been here, and this is about making people more aware of who the HPC is, what the HPC does, and specifically those are about the Historic Register and the neighborhood guidelines. So next slide, please. So I know that I've talked about door hangers before. I'm not obsessed with door hangers, but they're a great way to get the message across. I don't know if it's been to the next slide though. Maybe a delay. Anyway, so door hangers, we would distribute these, we would design them, distribute these into historically listed neighborhoods such as John S. Park, Beverly Green, Berkeley Square, Las Vegas Neighborhood District, even though that's on the national, not the local list. But just letting people know that they are in a historic district, because we have seen today and in past certificates of appropriateness, people just don't know they live in a historic district, and that's not their fault because they were not told. So we want to make sure people are aware of it and what that means. And so these door hangers, they'd be fairly simple, down and dirty, of just the basic information of what it means to live in a historic district, the rules and regulations they need to follow, and if there are specific design neighborhood guidelines for John S. Park, we would add that as well. We can also distribute these, though, to areas, again, not just residential areas. We can look at the commercial business areas of properties that would be eligible to encourage people to get on our historic register. Again, just providing real simple information about what that means, about the grant opportunities that go along with that, as well as for like the businesses for the federal tax incentives. So can I have the next slide, please? We would also like to put up both posters, billboards, similar information about that's on the door hangers about living in a historic neighborhood or a potentially historic neighborhood. One thing that I personally walk around old neighborhoods in Las Vegas a lot just to see what things look like. And there's a lot of places that have plaques or signs or something up that says historic West Side or historic Alta Village or something that says it's a historic neighborhood where they're really, they can call themselves that. They are not a historically listed neighborhood. It would be great to reach out to these neighborhoods and say, look, if you want to actually be a historic neighborhood, this is the steps you need to take. And we can do this by advertising, again, talking about grant opportunities, talking about what that means to be on the register. We can advertise about once COVID allows us, and I don't know if everybody knows, but I'm home because of COVID right now, but once this lifts, that we can get out into the neighborhoods and we can get out into the community and start talking about what people can do to preserve Las Vegas. So next slide, please. Also, once COVID restrictions allow, to go into booths and rent booths in community spaces, like markets and fairs, festivals, do a real aggressive information sharing campaign. I know that the Springs Preserve in the spring usually has some type of event where vendors come and sell their wares. So we can get a table or a tent. We can sit there. We can hand out brochures. We can hand out literature. We can answer questions, again, about putting your neighborhood, your house, your business, whatever it is, on the historic register. That means also for the design guidelines specific for these neighborhoods. I know that both Commissioner Levine has just said and Commissioner Laramie has also expressed in the past, to get these design guidelines for these neighborhoods. We can advertise at these community spaces to talk to these neighbors, to go to these neighborhood meetings, and to talk to people about how we need to do surveys, how to do the listing, and how to do guidelines. So, and then the next slide is the last slide. So what this all takes is going to be funding. Now, staff can take on some of these tasks, but not all of them because of, well, mainly resources. And so we would need to allocate, just put aside a pot of $50,000 that we will use for different things. Also, we will need to hire consultants and contractors for some of this work to help us with the example of costs like the graphic design and the printing and the distribution and renting of community spaces and advertising. So I'm getting a little feedback, so I hope everybody could hear me, but I'm happy to answer any question.
We could hear you perfectly. Any questions, comments?
Chair, question, Stovall?
Go ahead, Bob.
Two questions. One, what role will the Historic Preservation Commission, beyond approving this pot of money as you describe it, what role will the commission have in either the development of the marketing efforts, in fact, what role do you see the commission playing? Will we approve any contracts that go to an outside consultant, or is that all going to be, we'll find out when it becomes public?
No, the HPC what we would do is if you said that we can allocate this money, we'd say, okay, we're going to start with, let's just, for an example, we'll start with Beverly Green to do something, some type of a campaign there. We would then put out a contract for a contract, and then that contract would be approved by the HPC as normally we would approve any contract. And then as far as the design of the brochures or posters or whatever the product is, I will share that as part of the updates that we normally give on the different projects.
Great, that's wonderful. One last question. What role do you see social media playing in getting this message out? Yours are a good tool, but I'm wondering what else do you use to get the message out? Thank you.
That's a good question. We can, engage with the City of Las Vegas Twitter people. I don't know what you call them. People do our communications department that run Twitter and Facebook, and ask them to also advertise this for us.
Well, I was thinking, do we know the addresses within the historic neighborhoods? I'm just wondering whether or not we can simply email them the door hanger as well. Thank you.
Yeah, we can certainly look at that.
I have a comment, Palancar for the record. Again, I want to mention that probably over 30% of the homes in the historic district are rentals. So in order to get to the actual owners, I'm not sure that the door hangers will make it. We have to find a way to do mailers, I would believe, directly to the owner of properties. Otherwise, they're out of state. Some of them don't even come into state. So we need to do something to address the out-of-state owners.
All right. Yeah, I agree, and that's one of the things I wanted to say as well, because it takes multiple impacts for any kind of advertising and promotion to work on people. That's why you see the same TV commercial over and over and over again. So we need to mail to the owners' addresses. We need to leave door hangers. We need to get the tenants involved in working with their landlords and even the property managers who take care of the properties for those out-of-state owners. Every time we reach them, one more way that we're actually implanting an idea in their brain, and we need to do it multiple times. One postcard, one mailer, one door hanger all by itself is not going to accomplish anything. So it does have to be a multifaceted effort.
Seaborn, for the record, I appreciate that, and I appreciate those comments. And definitely, this is why we would need to hire somebody to help us with that aggressive campaign that is really well versed in, doing those types of projects of not necessarily historic preservation, but how to get a hold of people and make them aware of a message.
And Madam Chair, if I might, I apologize. I do unfortunately, I need to correct or provide a little bit more context to the response that Dr. Seabrandt gave to Commissioner Stovall. So to be clear, by agreeing to setting aside this funding for this historic preservation program, we are not obligated to come back for every activity that we would utilize these funds for. In fact, many of these funds may be done with or within the city and not necessarily be required to be contracted out. They just may not be handled by the Department of Planning. So for instance, there may be some graphic design work that we work with our communications office on. As we're talking about a coordinated messaging campaign, again, we would probably work with our communications office, and they do have firms on retainer that we might tap into to use as part of doing some of this messaging. So I just wanted to make sure that we're clear that staff would retain the ability to complete the work. Obviously, Historic Preservation Commission will be constantly updated on anything, and where there's something like a big piece of something that we need HPC to weigh in as a body, we would of course bring that back for some kind of response or discussion from the Historic Preservation Commission. But I just didn't want anyone to walk away from here thinking that everything that we do with this money or under this concept is going to come back every time for review or approval by this board. It will not. That would not be feasible to do what Commissioner Levine just was talking about, keeping that messaging going and doing some of these things which at a certain level won't be very big. They'll be very targeted efforts that won't necessarily have big pieces of money attached to them, but will be incremental in their building up support and what have you. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Before a printed, just a second, Bob. Before a printed piece goes into, let's say, Berkeley Square, we would be able to see that printed piece before it goes in?
Absolutely. So again, in sharing that information with the Historic Preservation Commissioners before it goes out, 100%. Waiting for a meeting and in a specific agenda item to vote on, or to have the committee in a forum like this try to wordsmith some of this material, less so. Which again, if there's something big that we're doing or being proposed, then those would clearly come back before the board for more advanced discussion. But I think anything like a door hanger, we're going to send the artwork for the door hanger. And if there's some options, we might do like we've done before, where we do an informal, here's the artwork, directly back to Diane, give me your thoughts kind of thing, but not hold up and wait for a meeting or do a whole thing where we're wordsmithing a letter or what have you at a formal meeting.
Bob?
Well, that was Chair Stoloff, for the record, that was along the lines of really my question. It wasn't specifically that we need to approve the contracts, although that's certainly part of it. But I'm sure, like other commissioners, when something appears in the media or there's a concern in a neighborhood, we get calls, we get emails, we get communicated to sometimes in a challenging way, and quite often over the years I've had to say, I don't know what you're talking about. And it's a very uncomfortable situation. So all I'm really asking is not that I think that the commission as a board needs to sit there and wordsmith, but we certainly would like to know what's going out and when it's going out, and we don't need a meeting. We simply, maybe there's some sort of a timetable next week. The following things are going to be sent out to the general public and the commission is made aware of it. That's really also, we can be part of the team, not just a secondary recipients of the effort. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, that's absolutely the intent. That would not be to circumvent or to disregard, but to provide that information so that you can see it before it gets out to your constituents, 100%.
Wonderful. Any other comments, questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Oh, I'm over here, sorry. Commissioner Tim, for the record, I fully support this measure here. I think $50,000 is shy of what we'll need. I think that it's a good ballpark to start with, but we'll probably exceed that amount in the long term, considering the pricing that would be needed for billboard rentals. And I also noticed that this is missing in the presentation, and it was probably just an oversight, but I would like to suggest translation services be a part of this budget, so that we're distributing things in languages other than English.
And another important element, Levine for the record, and another important element is that I think we could get a lot of free press, getting Las Vegas Weekly to do a series on the different historic districts, on the effort that we're doing, get the newspapers to run an article about why we're doing this and watch for this stuff. And, they're all looking for everybody's looking for content. Let's give them some.
Wonderful. Are we ready for the vote?
Commissioner Laramie, I just
Yes, please.
have a quick question or point of clarification. Diane, in your presentation, you talked about design guidelines and used the example of Beverly Green. So are you also proposing to develop design guidelines for Beverly Green in this project, or are you just saying that that we can advertise design guidelines and the fact that historic neighborhoods have them as part of this effort?
So, Seaborn, for the record, it's the latter, what you said, because this budget wouldn't allow us to actually create design guidelines, but this is the opportunity to talk to the neighbors and explain what is needed. And if there is the interest, then we could look at, getting a grant and hiring a consultant and contractor to actually work with the neighbors on design guidelines, actually creating them. But this is just to give them this information.
Okay, thank you, because I was also concerned about the amount of the budget and that there wouldn't be enough to do both, so that,
Okay.
that seems fair.
Okay. I'd like to take action on this item.
I would move to.
Commissioner Long, I have a question and a comment.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I know that this, project is to raise awareness for owners, and it seems that, the issues that owners have is when they want to do some renovations, some of them don't realize they live in a historic neighborhood and have to get approval. And so we want to make them aware that they live in a historic neighborhood and may need approval for certain projects. I'm just wondering, is there any way that any outreach can be done with the Contractors Board? I know the Nevada State Contractors Board has guides for consumers. I just was wondering if that had ever been thought about or considered as far as reaching out to consumers and making them aware that we exist.
So I think Commissioner Seabrandt, you had talked about more public presentations, and I think this ties into that. Am I correct?
Yes, Seaborn for the record. Unless Commissioner Long, do you have something? I'm not quite sure what you mean. I'm not following you as far. Is there a specific board that we should contact? If so, just give me the information. I'm happy to reach out.
Okay, I do. I was working with the Nevada State Contractors Board. They sometimes will have a guide to help consumers on various things, how to find contractors. They have a lot of different guides on their website. Obviously, that's statewide, the State Contractors Board, and I know we're the city, so I didn't know if that's exceeding our scope. So I just wanted to raise that issue.
Madam Chair, if I
Okay, if
might.
you want to send me what you have, and then I can research it a bit more and see if we have something more than full.
If I might, so my note, I just want for Commissioner Long so she knows, so my note that I've made is one of the things that we'll look into as a part of this program is communicating the fact that the city has a speakers bureau, which Diane is a part of. And so if opportunities to speak to other allied professional organizations like a contractors board, like AIA, and others about the efforts of a Historic Preservation Commission here at the City of Las Vegas, that would go into this, creating, you know, some of that piece of kind of a multifaceted approach to getting the information out. So I've made that note, and Diane and I and Mike Howe and what have you, we will work on that. Integrating that is a part of this conversation as we're putting this together.
Thank you. Now I am ready for action on the item.
All right, I would move to approve this funding. However get worded.
Commissioner Laramie, I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you so much. The ayes have it unanimously.
Commissioner Stoto, was that a yes?
Oh,
Yes.
Thank you.
okay, good. Thank you. We're moving now to item number 9, 200389 HPC 1, report by the Department of Planning regarding the condition of the horse barn at Floyd Lamb Park at Tule Springs, 9200 Tule Springs Road. Diane, number 9.
Okay, thank you for the record. So I do have my presentation for this as well, and Commissioner Stoddall asked for this specific item to be reported on. Commissioner Beck was also inquiring about it, so I'll make sure that she gets the PowerPoint. So this is the horse barn at Floyd Lamb Park. The first slide shows you its location adjacent to the pond and hay barn that I think everybody is familiar with. So I just want to give you a quick background on it as well as give you the condition. So next slide, please. So the horse barn was constructed in 1948. It was as part of the original ranch. It was originally 2 separate buildings, and they are constructed of concrete blocks painted white with a gabled wood roof that was painted green, and each one had a cupola on the separate structures. Then in 1950, the 2 buildings were combined to make one building, which is what you see in that first image. See the original water trough is still there. It hasn't really changed very much over the years. The next slide, please. So you see from what it looks like in the 1950s until today. The color photos were taken last month. The black and white are from the 50s. So there hasn't been a lot of work done on the horse barn, but what I have found, what is documented, is in 1971, there was a structural survey that found that the barn was in fairly good state of repair, but that they would need structural modification if its continued use was anticipated. Then there was another structural survey in 1981, and this is the one that went on the National Register of Historic Places nomination form. This particular building is listed as contributing with a significant sports association with the commercial farming enabled by irrigation and guest ranching. Now, in 1981, it was reported that the west end of the barn was being used as a tool shed and a three-car garage, and the east end was still being used as the horse barn and also for a tack room, and they were doing laundry, and there was a canning area in there. There was another structural survey done in 1992, and at that point, it still found that the barn was in good condition, except the roof had deteriorated due to weather damage. And in 1992, the wood shingle roof was replaced. Now, that is the last time that there's any documentation of work done on the barn. So I just want to show you some other images of the barn. So next slide, please. So this is the northeast side of the barn. The color image was taken, we tried to get the almost exact angle from when this was done, the black and white picture, which was clearly in 1948 or 49, because you see it as two separate structures at that time before it was made into one building. There's also this small outbuilding at the back of the barn, which was demolished at some point in history. It was not documented on any of the literature I was able to find. But you can see that it hasn't changed significantly. The next slide, please. So the roof and the exterior paint are in a bit of poor condition. The roof or the shingles you can see are a bit weathered and warped. The exterior paint is cracked and crumbling. There's also a lot of animal waste. There's a lot of spider webs that are on the front of the barn. Next slide, please. The barn alleyway, the structure still seems to be fairly sound. The wood seems to be fairly intact. It's not deteriorated. Image on the left, the green door in the back, that's the tack room. Again, it just has a lot of bird droppings, a lot of spider webs, but other than that, it's in pretty good condition. Next slide, please. The next one are the Dutch doors. The image on the left is one of the original pictures when it was still being used as a barn. And the image on the right is of the Dutch door with the mesh over the opening. So the Parks and Recreation Department just recently put the mesh over the openings of the stall doors. So prior to that mesh going up, and I think it just went up in November, next slide please, the interior of the stalls is in pretty bad condition from a point of hazardous animal waste. It's like a pigeon graveyard in there. There's a lot of pigeon waste. There were peacocks living in there. There's rats in there. But since the Parks Department has basically kicked out the animals, it just will need a cleaning. You see that the windows, the back windows, there's some damage to those. But again, it looks structurally sound. The wood is in pretty good condition. It's just cleaning it up a little bit. Next slide, please. So the east and north sides of the barn, again, haven't changed significantly over the years, and again, just maybe some aesthetic repairs for the paint and cleaning it up a little bit. And then next slide, please, is the last slide. Now, this is the west side, and the west end is in really good condition. The Parks and Rec are using, you see the garage area, they're using it to store some of their equipment and supplies, and it's in a relatively good condition as compared to the other part where the horses were that hasn't been really for a long time. So, again, this is just a report, so no action taken on this item, just about what the HPC wants to think about, if there's something you want to do with this barn, if you think that, the last structural survey was in 1992, if you think it needs a new one, do we want to get a contractor out to look at it, to do an assessment, to maybe provide funding to do some type of cleanup or repairs, or if we just want to put it on the back burner for a project in the future. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
How is this building going to be used in the future?
There's no plans right now to use the building for anything at this point.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, this is a report. It does not require any vote.
Chairman, do you have a question?
Yes, please.
Diane, does the public have any access to this building? Is it used in any way by the public?
Not inside. I mean, they can look at it. When I was there last, there's people that do walks and, walk the dogs around the park. They walk by it. The peacocks really like hanging out at this barn, so a lot of people are there taking pictures of the peacocks, but nobody can go inside of it. People are just able to go around it.
And let me just preface my question. This is really, the request originally came from a member of the public that has some concerns about the building and was involved in some litigation, although I believe it's been resolved. You mentioned funding, so if I understand right, Parks does not have any particular plan to clean the area up beyond putting up the mesh. It would be up to independent funding to stabilize that facility?
Well, I don't know if they don't have plans to clean it up. I mean, that would be part of their maintenance. But I don't know what their exact plans are at this time. I'll just need to check with them further on that. And as far as what their budget is for doing any work on the barn.
Sure, that would be helpful. Just to be able to stabilize, sometimes we don't have the funds to restore everything, but if we can at least stabilize the stables, that would be, so if we could get that information back. This is part of the contributing structure to the historic register. Are there any requirements under that we, as the HPC or the City of Las Vegas, has to do something to contributing structures?
Well, we have to maintain them.
Yeah, I'm not sure how detailed the word maintenance is as far as the historic structure. But thank you. But if we could find out if Parks does have some plan to do any sort of a cleanup, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to 2003.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, Seth Floyd here. Commissioner Stoddall just asked about maintenance and repair. In Title 19.10.150, there's a fairly lengthy by code standards section N, that addresses the owner's obligations on maintenance and repair. Since this is a designated structure, I assume we would fall into that category as well. But that would apply to anyone in a contributing structure or designated structure. And that's a section we don't look at very often, and that's why I wanted to put it on the record.
So do we need to, okay, thank you. Okay, good. All right, our next item is 200390, HPC 1, report by the Department of Planning regarding the director's update. Is this Diane or is this Robert?
This is Diane. I don't know if we have a PowerPoint for this one or not. Diane, do we?
No, this is yours, Robert, because this is director's updates. I'm the next one with the project update.
Oh, okay, my apologies. So at this time, I do not have anything specific to update the commission on, other than we continue to move forward with the citywide master plan. As a part of the citywide master plan, historic or reuse or adaptive reuse of existing structures is a part of that. It's a part of our conversation around resiliency. It's a part of our conversation around equity within the city of taking buildings that are already existing and how do we put those to new use and give them new life. So I just want to give you the heads up that that is still moving forward. The master plan is currently, we're hoping to have, Planning Commission has already taken one vote on it. They will have another vote that will come up late, what would it be, late winter, early spring, and we're hoping that council will be able to take action on the new master plan in early spring, early mid-spring. So with that, I think that's the only update I have at the moment, unless Diane can remind me that there was something else I wanted to update you on. Otherwise, you know, I'm here if you have any questions or issues about things that aren't necessarily a part of your normal project list that the city's working on that may have some historic preservation considerations. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is 200391, HPC 1, report by the Department of Planning regarding project update list. Diane?
Okay, and thank you. I do have a slide presentation for this one as well, for item number 11. There's a delay, so maybe it's already up there, so I'll just go ahead. Really, the update is that things are in progress and things are delayed because of COVID. So we do have the Fraser Hall addition that still needs to go up to DC, but there were some changes that were requested by the state that the state had to get back with Northwind to do the final edits. And so that will go to DC hopefully in the next week or so. And then we have the 2 grants that the HPC has funded for, again, the Las Vegas High School for the additional buildings. The documentation for those is in progress, and the survey catalog is also in progress. So next slide, please. So the Helen Toland residence is now officially on the local Las Vegas Register. So just wanted to let everybody know about that. This was originally started in 2017. So we have now added one more property to the local register, which is great news. Next slide, please.
So for the
Floydland Park, back to Floydland Park, the hay barn this time, the work at the hay barn
Diane.
continues. The most recent additions were to the landscaping, and this includes lighting that was placed around the property along the hay barn, as well as a gazebo and some grass area. And I think the chain link fence is still up to keep the public out. That should be coming down soon because the grass is now taken root.
Diane,
And then
Diane,
next slide, please.
Diane, can you pause?
Yeah.
The chair wanted to go back to the Toland residence real quick.
Is there,
Oh, yes.
will there be
Go ahead.
will there be a plaque for that residence?
Well, Madam Chair, we need to actually make that an agenda item at a later meeting to see if we can do the plaques for our locally listed property.
Okay, good.
Okay, so any questions on the hay barn? Can we go on?
Go on.
We're now on the
Okay.
fire for the Las Vegas Boulevard location.
Okay, so I'm not sure if anybody saw this in the news. There was a fire at 1431 South Las Vegas Boulevard. That building was constructed in 1966. It was not on any historic register, but I'm just letting you know because it was an older building. It was an original Bob's Big Boy restaurant. It was turned into a wedding chapel, and that was its most recent function. Next slide, please. And then on January 12th, there was unfortunately a fire that just destroyed the building. And then next slide is my last slide. I was able to go out to the property on the day following the fire, and the building is destroyed. It can't be saved. But miraculously, the sign that was that original Bob's Big Boy sign was not touched. It's in very good condition. So we're going to get a hold of the property owners to see if it's something they'd be interested in donating to the city or the Neon Museum, and that we can look for a future refurbishment project on that. So if anybody had any questions on any of those?
Palancar, for the record, I just wanted to mention on that wedding chapel and for other historic properties that the owners are not watching or taking care of. I have to bring this up again. Because that was known to be housing people off the street, drug addicts, et cetera, for many, many months while it was there, and no one seemed to do anything about it. I don't know how we can take action to prevent this for these historic buildings when the owners don't seem to do anything. So that was going on for months before they started a fire there. So, and that's not the first fire that's been started destroying property. So I don't know what we're doing as far as the city's concerned, but I know it affects the historic buildings. So that's my input.
Madam Chair, if I might, so just for the commission's sake, please know that we do take squatting in these vacant buildings seriously. When we get a code complaint about it, we do actively work with our community services office, with our marshals, with Metro, and try to work to get the folks that may be trying to utilize these buildings for housing into a more appropriate shelter and other services that they may need. Unfortunately, we do have a lot of buildings that are vacant. COVID has not helped that. And unfortunately, COVID's not helped the homeless situation, with more people being homeless than almost ever before. So, but we do take it seriously. We do monitor it. And then I would just mention, as you can see from the photo, this building is unfortunately a total loss. And so the city is working, because it is a life safety hazard, is working to tear the building down. And so I don't think it's done yet, but it will be within the next couple weeks. The structure will be completely removed from this site.
And I think that we will always have people living in abandoned buildings until we cure homelessness. Item number 200393, HPC1. Discussion regarding topics for future agenda items by the Historic Preservation Commission. Comments made during this portion of the agenda by individual commission members shall refer solely to proposals for future agenda items.
I'm sorry, Chair.
Yes?
I think you skipped number 12.
Pardon me, I skipped one?
Yeah, number 12.
Madam Chair, this is Seth Floyd. Since you've already read in the next one, if you want to just do that one, and then we'll go back to item number 12.
Thank you so much. Okay. Members shall refer solely to proposals for future agenda items, and any discussion shall be limited to whether or not any such proposed items is or are within the purview of the commission, and whether such proposed items shall be placed on a future agenda. No discussion regarding the substance of any such proposed topic shall occur, and no action shall be taken regarding the proposal. So future agenda items, please. Commissioner Palancar?
Thank you. Yes, I believe that you had directed me.
No.
Well, you did. Regarding the proposed, we already passed the 50,000. That's what I was concerned about. So that's already been taken care of. Was there another one?
So, okay, so you don't have another, okay?
No. Thank you.
Anyone else with a future agenda item? Yes, Commissioner Laramie.
Yeah, Commissioner Laramie, for the record. I'd like to, I know when we did our recent conference, I think with the National Alliance of Preservation Commission, quite a few of us had expressed interest in learning more about conservation districts, and if that would be something we'd be interested in pursuing here in Las Vegas. So I'd like to put some time on the agenda to discuss what those are and possibly looking at an ordinance for that.
Diane, did you hear that?
I did, thank you, I've written it down.
Okay, thank you. Any other items for, yes, please.
Commissioner Tim, for the record, and I apologize if we've already received an update on this, but I would like to revisit the permitting for demolition of historic buildings and how we were going to suggest an abeyance of those before they come to the commission and how that project is proceeding.
And Madam Chair, while I won't get into the substance of it because it's not what we're agenda for the commissioner's sake, there will be an agenda item on your next agenda where I will be doing an update on where we're at with the demo ordinance.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. Any others? Anyone on the phone with an item? All right, thank you. Let's move back to item 200392, HPC 1, report by the Department of Planning regarding historic and archaeological resources in the local media. Diane, do you want to talk about those for us, please?
Yeah, Seaborn for the record. So just a quick one. There's a really well-done documentary on the old Las Vegas Common Fort. That's on their website that I suggest everybody view. It's very well done and very informative. There's an odd piece of media. This was, last month. The El Cortez Hotel put new carpet in, and they were selling pieces of the original carpet for $19 on to anybody who wanted to buy it. I did check with SHPO about the legality of doing that, and the El Cortez is able to sell their property if they wanted to, because again, this property is on the National Register, but it's not on the local register, and it's not taking any federal funding, so it could do basically whatever it wants. So there's people out there that bought $19 pieces of carpet. The next one is not really historical, but the gateway arches went up. That kind of leads into the historic area of Las Vegas. And then there was just shared an op-ed on the National Register that does seem to reflect a mostly white history and how that can be combated.
Anyone have any comments about any of those? Thank you so much. Those are always interesting, and the El Cortez was really an interesting article in the paper. Our last item for today is citizen participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the commission. No subject may be acted upon by the commission unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion of any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Anyone? All right, thank you so very much. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Rhonda.